In the first episode, I talked about the SS Yellowstone and how it was leaving Montreal, and how still to this day I'll never remember whether or not that was a ship I was offered a job on, but I could have swore it was. I turned it down anyway and caught a job in Gibraltar on a ship called the SS Mohawk, which happened to be owned and operated by the same company as the Yellowstone. When I got to Gibraltar, I realized that the Yellowstone and the Mohawk were there at the same time. Let me tell you why that was significant. Stick around. I'm the Saipan Sailor, and this is chapter 2 of Around the World in 70 Days on a ship. Now, Gibraltar in 1978 was a British colony. It was a British territory. I don't know if it is today. But I realized that when I went out that night to get drunk, and I passed by a pub where two bobbies were beating the crap out of some poor slob with their billy clubs. He did something they didn't like, and the only thing that crossed my mind was he was going to have one hell of a hangover tomorrow, if he lived through that. I didn't stay out long, a few hours, went back to the hotel, went to sleep. But the next morning, I was jolted awake by the telephone ringing next to the bed. And before I even opened my eyes, I picked up the phone, answered it, and there was some fella on the other end of the line asking me who I was and could I be ready by 10 o'clock. He would have someone pick me up. I said, yeah, sure. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning. And he hung right up. Now, it became apparent to me right away that that was the shipping agent, and he had tracked me down. If you're not familiar with what a shipping agent is, in just about every major seaport on the planet, these shipping agencies exist. And what they do is they service the ships that call in port. If there are crew members getting off and on the ship, they'll provide transportation. If there are supplies or stores coming to the vessel, they will get it to the pier so it can get loaded onto the ship. And if the ship's going to spend any time in that port, a few days or a week or so, then the agent usually pays a customary visit to the captain to see if he needs anything else. I've dealt with a lot of agents. Uh, some are real nice and helpful, others are complete assholes. And I'm thinking about one such agent in Singapore who was one of the greatest people I've ever known. And his name's on the tip of my tongue and I can't remember. He treated us real well. But see, that was a different situation where we had permanent rotations, 4 months on, 4 months off. So he knew all of us, and he'd see us at least twice or four times a year. I'll talk about him another time. So I had my bag packed, went down, checked out of the hotel, went in the hotel's restaurant to eat breakfast. And by the time I was done, this fellow walked in and said, "We're ready for you as soon as you're ready. We'll take you down to the launch. The launch will bring you out to the ship." So I paid the bill, got into the vehicle. They took me down to the launch, and the launch brought me out to the ship. Now it was very foggy. The visibility was very low. Which is typical for that part of the world. When I got on board the ship, I don't know, I wasn't on board an hour, okay, when the captain ordered everybody on deck with their life jackets on, and the ship came to a stop. So I went on deck wearing my life jacket. And like I said, it was real foggy. It was hard to see anything, but there was a lot of ships around because traffic was backed up on both sides of the straits, on the Atlantic side and the Mediterranean side. But what I was looking at, it wasn't too far, we were pretty close to it, was the SS Yellowstone. But she wasn't alone, okay? An Algerian supertanker had broadsided her and climbed right on top of her. Her bow was sitting right on top of the Yellowstone. It was a major accident. So we were there pretty much all night, getting trickle down news, whatever the radio operator can find out. We learned that 6 people had died. But there's a report that I'll show you that says 5 people had died. So it was 5 or 6. We also heard that the reason for the collision was that the Yellowstone had crossed the tanker's path and that they weren't using the radar on the Yellowstone. Now, whatever their reasons were for that, I don't remember. I don't know if I did know. But they got the blame. That ship had rammed the Yellowstone pretty close to the engine room. So everybody down there died. When that tanker finally got pulled away by tugboats, and then they hooked a bridle onto the Yellowstone and tried to tow her away, she sank. They had to cut the bridle and let her go. That was tragic. And I remember going out on deck at night, and during the day I didn't see much of the ship. I don't remember seeing anything really, but I knew where to look at night. What I was able to see was a cluster of lights and a string of lights coming from that. And that had to be the tanker, because of course the Yellowstone had no power, so there wasn't any lights. I was certain of that. But we sailed the next day and headed for the Suez Canal. Now, you know, the Mediterranean, the Med as we called it, in my opinion, is probably the most exotic place in the world. And I've been to many ports there. I've been to Gibraltar, I've been to Spain, I've been to Greece, Crete, Italy, Sicily, Turkey, Morocco, Egypt, but not this time. We were headed straight for Port Said to do a transit through the canal. That Yellowstone wreck put everybody on edge. But we were real busy on that ship, working 12, 14 hours every day. That ship had a lot of problems. The Mohawk was an old C4 class, built, I think they were built after World War II. I had been on 3 different C4s that I can remember, and that was the second one. Nice little steam plant. And all the motors, everything was direct current. And the only thing that was alternating current was what we used in the main house and in our rooms. So we had other things on my mind, and when we left, we had other things on our mind. When we left there, we had all but forgotten about the Yellowstone. The next episode, I will tell you about the Suez Canal. Going through there for the first time is quite an experience. But this wasn't the first time. I had already been through there about 8 times, back and forth. And I vowed never to go back. I vowed to never go back. Never say never, especially if you're a seaman. So, I'm going to close out this chapter. I'm the Saipan Sailor.